So I want you to remember, like, there are goals in mind. Like, the more you do this, the better you get at it. And I am so opposed, truly, to us walking around saying how hard it all is. This is so hard. This is so hard. This is so hard. All that does is keep us dependent on diet culture. And I'm just like also not sure how hard it is. I think it's new. I think there's a skill set to learn. I think skill sets are challenging and take practice, but you got to know that if you're walking around, man, this is so hard. This is so, you're just walking misery. And one of the things I have said to you in this podcast, but I'm going to say, it's like, I want you to enjoy your life. Like, the longer we're walking around saying it's so hard to travel, it's like the food's just stealing from you again. The diet culture is stealing from you again. Like, what if it isn't hard and it's just takes planning and thought, and that's a practice, and we get good at it and we get good at it? Isn't that like a way better sell than like, I could never travel again? I remember when I first gave up sugar that I love Paris. I mean, who doesn't love Paris? And I was like, well, I mean, how would I ever go to Paris? I mean, how would I ever go to Paris? That is too hard. I've been to Paris like 3 times since. Like, it's the practice. And I mean, and honestly, going to Paris, not eating sugar and flour for me, big time sugar flour addict, is a great experience because I'm awake and I'm alive, and that art and the vibe and everything. And then I'm eating things that really agree with my nervous system and with my endocrine system and with my spirit. And it's amazing. And from time to time, of course, because I'm human, I see a macaroon and I think, oh, that looks delicious. But then I play that tape through and I'm like, well, how I want to eat a macaroon and how my best friend Michelle is eating a macaroon is very different. I eat a macaroon a little bit like Cookie Monster, and she eats it like a beautiful Parisian. She tastes it and then she's done when one is over, and I play that through, and then I go, and then I move my focus onto experiencing joy, having fun, the things that really matter. The truth is, me being in that relationship with sugar in that moment doesn't give me the outcome I want. When I think about how do I want to feel when this trip to Paris is over, I want to feel like I enjoyed it. I want to feel like I was there and I was present and I was in life. Can't really do that when I'm eating sugar. That is the truth. We can do a whole podcast on radical acceptance, because that does take radical acceptance and that does take some grieving for sure. But the end game is so pure and amazing and wonderful. I want to sell that to you because diet culture sells us it's too hard, and eating disorders sell, not eating disorders like sell like, oh, you got to stay in your box. And, I think in the beginning, sometimes you do it's because it feels really safe, but you can also start to move outside of your box. So being mindful and being willing to try something different can feel a little bit hard, but the solution is not hard work. It's actually openness. Isn't that amazing? And it's mindfulness, and it's like staying awake, and it's being thoughtful. But the truth is, this is really data driven, because I don't know, the data on willpower is it's just tremendous. It's so diet culture in a nutshell, because what we know about us just using willpower lasts 15 minutes, literally. It's an emergency skill that we end up using as like, it's almost like we use it as the light source for our homes, but it's really for emergencies only. So we're like running off of our generator, wondering why we can't enjoy ourselves. And it's because we're trying to access only willpower. So what we know from a research perspective, science nerd, is that planning is actually the most effective way to learn a new skill, to get through these new experiences in a way that really works. And I'm a beyond broken record when it comes to planning, because in my opinion, it's like, well, like, what's the worst that happens? You have all of these plans and you don't need them. Awesome. What's the worst that happens? You're like super well researched as to all the things that might happen. And then doesn't work. Okay, cool. What a great time to learn about ourselves. So when I travel, again, it depends, right? But if I'm traveling to someone's house, like I am the kind of person who brings a little, I'll go to a supermarket when I get there. I'll get some things that really work for me. I'll get, first of all, I'm a coffee drinker. So if there's not half and half in that house and coffee, that's happening too. But also, I'll pick up, some egg whites. I'll pick up some Ezekiel bread. I'll pick up some chickpea pasta. I'll pick up just some stuff. And like worst case, I leave it in their house, right? And if I'm traveling somewhere and I'm staying in a hotel, like I am going to look around. I am going to look around to see where's the restaurants, where's the breakfast place, what's on the menu, what could I eat? Do I need to, I'll pack some protein bars in my bag. Like I'll go to the 7-Eleven and I'll pick up some apples and bananas to have with my protein bar. I find that to be a really safe place for me, even this many years in. I'll bring some 100-calorie packs of nuts. Like I'll just and a lot, I would say 95% of the time I don't touch them because I'm usually in life and enjoying, like it's on the road and it's easier. But to me, it always feels a little bit safe just to have something and feel good about it. The other thing that I have done is that, I'm in a space where people know that I don't eat sugar and flour. I mean, I wrote a book called Breaking Up with Sugar. So it's like a bit easier for me to have that conversation and it's not that awkward. But, letting people know where you stand is a really great place to be. And especially in 2021, everybody's on their own individual food journey. Like it's almost like weird when someone's just like, yeah, I eat everything, right? Because like this person's keto and this person's paleo and this person's gluten-free. And like everybody, this person's vegan. And so, I want you to be able to separate out your diet drama and trauma shame from just being another person that has a different way that they eat. And like that, this is sort of its own idea in and of itself, but holding true to what works for you makes you better and makes it easier for you to enjoy yourself. And so letting people know that that's not something that you do can really be a helpful sunscreen in your experience when you're dealing with other people. So, if we can name it, we can tame it. And so when I'm traveling, I always think about situations that might come and activate me. I think about like the environments that I'm going to be in, like I've found in my life, like honestly, still to this day, like a buffet can really get me riled up. Like I have to do a lot of work when I'm at a buffet. I go to like a lot of ashrams. They have a lot of buffets. I have to like breathe. I've made a 1 plate rule. I have to like canvas for me, it's still really, it gets my binging up. Like, oh my God, I want to eat all the food right now. And so I really always have to be, and I think a lot of times when I'm around like healthy food that I haven't had before, like I still get a little like jazzed up. And so I'm very mindful about like where I am emotionally, and I'll do some down regulating work. I'll do some breathing work before I go and eat, before I make my choices. Like I'm very conscious about being in my wise mind when I'm making choices around food. And let me tell you the other thing. I'm going to say this forever and ever and ever. And like, and if I'm not, okay, like this didn't go down on like one cheeseburger. This didn't go down on a binge on cookies. Like everything is reparable, right? And everything has to be reparable because we're talking about like our spirits here. So it's this idea of like planning ahead, keeping our brains on, negotiating the plan, coming with some prep, looking ahead, where you're going, what you're doing. And a lot of people roll their eyes at this. And I want to propose to you something, which is I think a lot of the times we roll our eyes at this because I don't think if you've been on the diet roller coaster, I'm like saying what they tell us at a Weight Watchers meeting in some ways. I'm going to say that again. I'm saying what they told us at the Weight Watchers meetings, right? Like plan your stuff. And so I want you to see with me right now that a lot of your resistance may be because I've already tried that. This is a closed mindset. Open your mind right now. Who cares if you've already tried it? It's data driven and it works. And it's a new you trying it. Write that down. all the data-driven stuff is like kind of boring, but it's awesome. And if it didn't work 5 years ago, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work now. I mean, I've been an addiction therapist my whole life. Here's all I know. You just never know when it's going to work. That's why we never stop trying. That's why we never, ever, ever give up on ourselves. And that's why if we go into all of this with a much more open mind, a much more forgiving mind, a much more self-compassionate mind, you actually can learn some stuff about yourself. I've learned a ton. I've learned about like relationships that I've learned about relationships that don't work for me. Hold on a second. I just need to pause this. So the point is that we need to walk into these situations knowing, I mean, the thing about travel is like, it's going to be imperfect. Keeping the goals in mind, like not the goals of like what you're going to eat. That's important, but also keeping in mind, like, oh, I'm here to enjoy myself. Oh, I'm here to visit my dying relative. Like really keeping your purpose in mind is going to be so helpful. Keeping how you want to feel in mind is so useful. And here's the other thing I want to say. There are moments, it always depends. I mean, think about any relationship you're in. There's no hard and fast rule for travel. I think planning is such a gift we give ourselves just to like be a little bit in the know about it with an open mind, I mean, if you start to think about it the way that I'm saying about it, it's just kind of interesting, right? Oh, like here's where this might work. Oh, and the other thing is I love doing some research about what's around, because then if somebody says, oh, anybody have any ideas or we should go, I usually have a thing in my head and then I can make the suggestion and it can be like delicious food that works for me. But we need to like get rid of this shame that we're not allowed to have wants when it comes to food. That's diet drama in a nutshell. You're allowed to go on vacation or go visit a dying relative. You're allowed to go to alternate environments, enjoy your food, love what you eat, have a great time. And also, life doesn't always hand us that particular deck of cards. So sometimes we're just getting by and we're doing the best we can. And sometimes our plans get totally flipped on their head. And then we just have to figure it out. If I could say that one thing, which is there's such a cost to when we travel and we give away all of our power. You know what I mean? There's just such a cost to when we change environments and we just become doormats about it, or we just say, oh, I can't do it. Like that's when our brain stops, our brain completely shuts down. And with that shutdown, we stop doing self-care. Like you have to think about this relationship with food as a function of a relationship with ourselves, which means that keeping our brains on and doing what's in our best interest, not in our perfect interest, but in our best interest, is an absolute act of self-love. And by the way, this is so important. Sometimes just doing what everyone else is doing and doing your best and maybe taking a bite of something that, like sometimes that's what's in the best interest. Like what somebody tells you there's one way, run away. And I think the problem with being in a relationship with food is it's an inherently imperfect relationship. And so if you're like striving for perfection and wanting to have a big, beautiful life, they don't go in tandem. They just don't. So either you're going to have a small postage stamp life and try to be a perfect person, or a big, beautiful life and learn how to navigate these waters. And the first step of that is keeping your brain on. I love that quote. I think it's Voltaire. Don't, let us not let the perfection be the enemy of the good. And this is what truly enjoying life is all about. You want to strive for perfection. If you could listen, I always think like when I travel to LA is like heaven on earth for someone who enjoys like high quality food, like no sugar, for a girl like me, LA is a great place to be. I can always really get what I want. That's great. And I really aim to eat in a way that's like totally in integrity. It makes me feel like healthy and happy when I'm in places I can do it. I'm not always like, ooh, can I like hop the system here? That's not loving. That's what you need to get in bed with, right? Trying to hop the system erodes your integrity. That's the whole thing. So think about how you want to feel. Keep your brain on. Do some research and planning in the spirit of self love and in the spirit of curiosity. And if it doesn't work, figure out what happened. Make a record of action plan, like every good relationship. And listen, if I have one thing to tell you, food has stolen enough from you at this point, right? So let's work on taking our power back, stepping into it, starting to use some of these skills and like enjoying our lives. You deserve that at the very least. You deserve to enjoy your life. I'll see you next time.